Build shows on the road today. Coming to you from outside Boston, we're visiting Steve Basic. Steve, what do you got for us here?
Check this out.
That is pretty sweet.
Schuco triple glazed windows on a cart.
Not a lightweight window.
Not a lightweight window, and this is the small baby. They only get bigger from here.
And so what are we doing today, Steve, on this video?
We are installing windows, but we're installing windows in a totally different light than what we've ever shot videos on. The homeowner, Josh, he's going to join us. He's self-performing most of the work here at his house, and he's going to show us how a one-man show installs these windows.
How about that? And not just small windows, but big windows.
Big windows.
Today's video, installing windows by yourself. Let's get going. Josh, thank you for having us at your job site, man.
Matt. Nice to see you here.
All right,
Always a
Josh,
pleasure,
so
man.
you are a solo installer. You're the GC on the job. You're also doing a lot of the work yourself. And I got to tell you, your method for installing windows totally blew me away when I came to the job today.
Thank you.
Talk me through, first off, your cart and your handling of these heavy windows.
So the first thing, obviously, Schuco product is heavy. It's triple glaze. It's a heavy frame. And the guys that do the installation for the different companies, they do great work, don't want to undermine their quality and what they do, what they bring, the value that they bring for the cost. It just didn't happen to be in my particular budget in this case. So I had to devise a way of doing it myself. And in order to do that, I had to figure out how to get the windows from the driveway, which are in crates, into the house, and then through the house to the window opening, and then getting them into the window opening.
Okay.
Took a lot of kind of head scratching and figuring out how to accomplish that task. But essentially, it boiled down to getting it onto a platform that's outside the door, and then getting it onto a cart that I could mobilize it.
And this does not look like a cart you bought at the home center.
It's not. I looked and looked for ones that kind of fit my purpose. I wanted one that would fully swivel, that was narrow enough to go through doorways, and that would maintain some strength vertically, so that the window, when I end up having a really big window on there, I don't want this thing tipping one way or the other, and it takes a lot of force to restrain that.
I like it. So torsion box probably, just some 2x4s. You've got plywood on both sides to make it nice and rigid.
And there's actually wood in there. There's actually 2x in that frame that hold all that lag screws for those wheels, just to really get it reinforced. To make it a true box. And then it looks like you took a piece of Zip R. I did.
And cut it down so you've got a lip here to make sure that window doesn't kick out. You also notice that Schuco, when they ship their windows, they've got this piece of milky plastic, which is strictly for shipping damage. So you could actually roll that around and not worry about damaging the flange, right?
Yeah. Right. They use that to load the containers actually, so they can slide them in and not damage the window.
And then just a basic ratchet strap to hold it on when you're moving it. All right, Josh, tell me about this cool tool. This I've never seen before.
So I was super concerned about being able to use the hand manual style and just put them on, pump it up, and then go. I don't do this all the time, so I wanted something that was a little bit more cautious about that. So I found the GRABO Pro. This will hold 392 pounds by itself on a vertical lift.
Holy cow.
And it restores that vacuum that starts to drop.
Okay.
The window doesn't have to be perfectly clean. This will actually do things that are that are not even non-porous. It'll do granite slabs. It'll do a lot of things that normally you wouldn't want to do just a manual with. And it'll vacuum that pressure. So
that's pretty sweet. So show me how it works.
Yeah. So I'll just put it to where it's got 4 anchor spots on it, and I'll just line it up to where one of the anchors is centered, because I'm only going to be using one GRABO on this window because of the size of it.
Okay.
And I just put a little bit of pressure on it, hit the green button, it activates.
And what's this 392 number?
That's the pounds that it can lift safely. So if this starts to, once it goes green, you know that you've got that full force available.
Now it's going to take 400 pounds to pull this off.
Correct.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and if it starts to drop for whatever reason, if the glass is a little dirty, there's a little dust, that vacuum starts to leak a little bit,
that's awesome.
It will automatically re-inflate or re-deflate.
Okay, so you mentioned this metal anchor. What are you using that for?
To hoist it up using the come along into the window opening. I can't lift a 600-pound window. So.
All right, I can't either. I bet Steve could one-handed probably put this window in. But you're gonna roll this over here, and then what do you got going on with this setup here? This looks like just a standard come along that anybody's gonna have in the back of their truck.
It is. Yeah, so that's a 1-ton come along, and so it'll easily hold any of the windows by itself that I'm gonna have to install.
Gotcha. And then how are you anchoring that to the building?
That's about a 2,500 pound capacity D-ring that you'd put like in the back of your truck or on a flatbed. Yeah. They swivel, they have 2 bolts. There's 2 3/8-inch bolts that go through that top plate.
Just down into the
vertically,
double top
yeah.
plate.
And that holds that D-ring right at the edge of that top plate to give you massive leverage to keep that thing from spinning. So there's no way that thing's gonna come loose.
None of this is fancy or expensive.
None
These
of it.
are a little bit expensive. You could have probably worked with regular suction cups. Any idea what these things cost, by the way?
Those cost $400 a piece.
Gotcha.
But for me, compared to paying somebody to do the installation, it was just the price of admission to be able to do it effectively for me. And
Gotcha.
the manual ones aren't designed to hook onto things. I don't know that they have anchor points on them the same way.
That's right.
So I would have to like do a strap through the handle, and I don't know if I would feel as comfortable with that I would with this. It's intentionally built for that purpose.
No fun to drop a window like this.
No. And there's a lead time to getting one of these. If you happen to break it, you're gonna have a hole for a while.
I love it. Yeah. All right, guys, let's actually transfer here to letting Josh do this install, and Steve and I will talk to him.
Now it's off the cart, I got to bring it down so that I can actually switch it over.
Sweet. And now you just flip it around and do it on the front side. Oh, that's interesting. It actually slides in. That way it doesn't. Yeah, they are. That's nice. That's helpful.
And the window back there's close.
Now I'm just trying to lower it and kind of center it in the window.
Yeah, and keep it under those shims.
And keep it on the shims, yep.
That's awesome.
And then as soon as the weight goes transferred to the shims, and so you saw it just then drop below the opening.
Yep.
Into the opening, essentially. Okay, now come along has some slack in it. At this point, the window's pretty much stationary, but it's still not totally secure.
Yep.
So I'm on those shims. I'm not dragging the window on the stretch tape, so I'm not damaging that. I can move it around.
And that's a plastic shim too, right?
That is a plastic shim, yep.
Smart.
It's ABS plastic, and it's textured on the bottom, and I did that so that it wouldn't slide on the stretch tape.
Smart.
It would kind of like groove in a little bit, and the slick part's on the top so I can move it.
Super smart. And so now you're using these Winbags, which are a pretty off-the-shelf, not very expensive part, like
not
15, 20 bucks each.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting you're using them on the sides first, not the bottom or the top.
Right, and the reason I'm
That
doing this
helps
is to stabilize the window in the opening so that it's not going to want to move. When these things actually get tightened up pretty well, they'll push 300 pounds worth of weight. Mm-hmm. So when you lock it in place, side to side, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's not.
And that's not the cable.
Yeah.
That's the Winbag holding it in place.
That's awesome.
So now I can adjust it side to side. I can slide the Winbag underneath and shim it up a little bit if I need to.
Yep.
I can square it in the opening, level it in the opening by going diagonals or whatever I need to do in the opening. And then once that's done, I'll anchor it with all the screws, the mounting clips. I don't put any mounting clips in the bottom. On their fixed windows, you also don't have any holes for the turbo screws in the bottom either. Mm-hmm. I don't do it in the bottom because I don't need to. It's
Makes
sitting
sense.
on something, right? And those clips hold it.
And with those shims, are you able to slide the Winbag under?
Yeah, if you deflate that.
If you go down all the way.
Yeah, if you totally.
It'll slide in there.
Yep.
You got enough space. That's crazy. Look at that. That's awesome.
Yep. So I can lift it up put whatever shims I want to center in any direction.
So
that
Josh,
was just a
these are
sheet
your-
of 12-inch by 12-inch that I cut to roughly 2 by 3, about the thickness of the frame.
Yep.
And
what's
that's
the
just
thickness on that shim?
3/16.
3/16.
Yep.
Which is enough to get your airbag in there.
Exactly. Yep.
And at this point, all you're going to do is screw off the window. You're totally, well, he's going to, of course, level it and verify it's square and
Right.
all that good stuff.
Right.
Screw it off, and then he'll later come to the outside and do the taping, which is the weather barrier system.
Right. I'll use Siga tape on the outside. I'll insulate in between using the regular detail that Steve has, probably with either a backer rod and foam, or like you prefer, a sealant, an adhesive, kind of flexible, stretchable sealant. And then I'll use the Siga tape on the inside for the air barrier. So I have a water-resistant barrier on the outside, an air barrier on the inside, foam insulation. Back dam will keep any water that does happen to get in there. It'll give it a path to get out. It's really just, as you would say, a bomber installation.
It's a bomber install, man.
Yep. I mean,
Holy
we're going to live
cow.
here. You know, it's kind of our forever home. So I've been meticulous about all the details. So thanks for all the stuff you guys have taught me.
Super, super impressive, man. Absolutely love it. I do want to point out one last thing that I think I forgot to mention. Steve, when he designed the house, detailed zip R9 sheathing in the outside. And by the way, Steve made a bunch of videos over here, but you'll notice that there's zip on the jam side, which is a great detail because now that there's continuity of the air and the water barrier, but also it covers over that foam on the outside. So he's got a nice continuous nailing flange and taping flange for that matter on the inside. But y'all need to go see the rest of the videos that Steve made here because Josh did an incredible job on his foundation, on his framing. All these walls were built in a factory and then brought out here. Yep. And Josh, by the way, is going to use this exact same method to do this more normal sized window in this giant hole we've got right over here, which is probably
That's a 5 by 9.
Holy cow.
It's a 5 foot by 9 foot.
We got like 4 or 5 of those.
And what does that window weigh, do you think?
600 plus.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And will you do the exact same method with the come along here? And
The only
getting it
thing that
off
I'll
the cart?
change, the come along's a 2,000 pound come along. We're fine there. Putting it on the top plate, we're fine there as long as we have some strength there between the top plate and something else.
Yeah.
Those particular ones, what I'll probably do is lag in a sheet of zip here just to kind of lock those two pieces together, the header plate and the top plate.
That makes sense.
Lock that in, provide a little, probably don't need it, but again, err on the cautious side.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the same thing again. I'll just come along on the top. The only difference will be I'll add more GRABOs. And I have a vinyl coated steel cable with these clips on it, and I'll just span that so that now I have the vinyl coated steel will go up and be able to do 2 GRABOs, and I could even do 4 if it feels like I need to. These are 392 pound rated each, which would work for a 600 pound window. But again, erring on the side of caution with the really expensive window, I'll probably put 4 on just out of being, one is a backup, almost like a redundant piece.
Josh, super impressive, dude.
Thanks, Matt.
Love it. Steve, what a house, man.
It's all Josh.
There we go. We were just talking about it.
On cue.
It's pumping back up to the 390 level or whatever, right?
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Super fun job, guys. As I said, bunch of videos in this house. Y'all should be following Steve Basic on Instagram, and he's got a ton of content over on thebuildshow.com. If you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on TikTok or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.